Hey everyone, Steve here from ProgrammingMadeEasy.com, and today I'm going to give you my 5 things that I wish I knew before I got into the software development industry. So here's number 1. How much continuous learning is involved? Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things when you first are thinking about doing software development, you might have this impression that all it really takes is just learn a language, right? Just learn like, some sort of C# or Java or JavaScript or Python or Ruby or, PHP, learn a language. And once you've got the language down, that's really all it takes. And then maybe a few extra things you have to learn about here and there. But no, I mean, the industry is just constantly undergoing change that makes it so that you have to continuously educate yourself. You have to constantly be looking at what is important in the industry, what is next that I need to learn, and then all these different roles that you have within the business, right? You don't realize that you have Agile and Scrum and maybe extreme programming and test-driven development and just doing unit tests, like testing. You don't realize how big testing is when you're just trying to learn about this stuff. You learn about all the different roles like, the Scrum Master and the Product Owner and the Tech Leads and, then you have the DevOps stacks and the QA and all this continuous integration and deployment. Like there's just so much extra. Just even deploying an application nowadays is more complicated. You got to set up your CI/CD pipeline and hope everything's all configured right. You got to set up your deployment, your cloud deployment, like with Google Cloud and Amazon Web Services or Azure, whatever your cloud platform is. Maybe you're using Heroku or something. All of this extra stuff that you have to learn just to be able to make something and put it out there is so involved, and it's continuously changing, right? How many different JavaScript frameworks are there going to be this year? It's just an incredible thing when you think about all the stuff that you have to learn about. And, from the outside looking in, it seems like all you need to do is learn a language. I just got to learn how to do JavaScript. I just got to learn Java or, Python or something. But no, like there's just so much more out there that you have to learn to really become an effective software developer. And so that's definitely my number 1. Number 2 would be how much time outside of work I actually have to think about code. Like it's crazy how much you think about code beyond just the 9-to-5 job. It's kind of cliche that you'll go to bed thinking about a problem at night, you'll dream about code, and the next morning you'll have the solution. It is that way in a lot of cases. It's really kind of crazy. And quite often you are thinking about problems that you encounter, or you solved something during the day and then you sleep on it and you realize, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I did that. Now I realize I made a mistake in my implementation. I got to go back. I don't even want to do it in the morning because I'm thinking about it right now at 2 a.m. I need to get on my computer and go fix it right now before I forget. That kind of stuff actually happens. It's not just this, I go to work at 9 o'clock and I come home at 5 or 6 and I'm done with my code. It really is continuously churning around in your head. And also, this kind of goes back into number 1 a little bit too, is you have to find time outside of your work hours to be learning about things, right? To educate yourself in terms of book reading and watching videos and going to conventions and going to talks and meetups and stuff like that. There's all this extra stuff that you've got to do in order to keep your career going and learning about these different things, that you have to spend a lot of that time outside of your 9-to-5 job. You have to be going and attending these things kind of on your own time, or maybe you can, if you're lucky enough, your company might pay for the trip for you to go to these conventions or something. But most of the time you're going to these things completely voluntarily to keep your career going, and so that you can continue to learn about fine tune and hone in your own personal career, right? That's what you've got to do outside of the typical 9-to-5 job. So that's definitely a big part of it too, is all that extra work that you got to do beyond just doing the 9-to-5 job. All right, so number 3 in my list of 5 things I wish I had learned before I got into software development. Number 3 is the language that would have been the easiest to learn. I really wish that I had learned early on, and this was kind of something that held me back personally, was the very first language I actually tried to learn was Pascal. Like, my stepfather gave me a book in Pascal, and I tried to do just the hello world example and found it ridiculously confusing. Pascal was a terrible, terrible language for me to try to pick up on. And I don't know if my stepdad was trying to play a trick on me, or maybe it was just a, hey, if you can figure this out, you can do anything. That might have been the attitude too. I think I would have preferred starting out with something that would have been easier. I think, I learned JavaScript in the mid to late 90s and did a little bit of it, just kind of tinkered with it, did a little bit of JavaScript. Really wasn't anything massive really in those days because first of all, websites weren't all that great just yet. JavaScript was just kind of a thing that was starting out, so there really wasn't it didn't seem like there was much upshot in learning JavaScript other than just kind of tinkering around with websites, which, the web was kind of starting to become a thing, but it wasn't yet really a big thing. So I wish that I would have picked a different language. Like Java would have probably been better, C++ or C, something maybe that might have been a little bit better for me to pick up. I think even those, JavaScript was a fairly easy thing, especially early on, but it didn't have enough behind it. Nowadays, I think if you're looking at doing software development, you have a whole lot of different languages to choose from. And every one of them has their learning curve to it, right? Some of them are easier, some of them are more difficult. I kind of lucked out when I stumbled upon Visual Basic because I think Visual Basic helps to put the software into a more English-style formal language so that you get kind of the idea of the constructs without any symbology. And then, once I learned that, then I went over to C#. And once I learned C#, it was like, oh yeah, I felt comfortable because I had some JavaScript experience, but now it was like this much more robust language with a lot of different things that I could do with it. And once I learned C# and I really felt comfortable with it, my understanding of all languages and all frameworks and all that good stuff really, really changed. And now I feel very confident that, if I need to go learn a new language, give me a month with it and I will have it down pat. I'll have it, I'll go learn Golang, I'll go learn Python, I'll go, there's a bunch of languages I don't really want to try to learn, like Ada or something. But yeah, there's a lot of languages out there now that you can just, once you've got that solid base and you've picked a language that is not just easy, but helps you understand some of those other concepts that are out there, once you've got that solid foundational base, you feel free to explore all these different avenues for your career, right? You can pick different languages to go learn. You can learn different frameworks and pick different libraries to utilize in your products. So that would have been really nice for me personally, is if I had learned a different language, if I'd picked something a little easier to pick up. So if you are one of those people looking for a language to pick up on, Python is very popular right now. Again, very similar to the reason why Visual Basic was popular, in that it is much more translatable to English. You can also pick up Visual Basic, but you're not going to find very much work with it. So that's kind of why Python's probably maybe a better starting point. If you feel like you want to pick up something a bit more robust, then, not that Python's not robust, but something that gives you a lot of different avenues to travel for your career, picking up something like Java or C# is really going to help you in your career, because then from there you can go into things like C++ or Go and Golang, or if you wanted to go into JavaScript, starting with one of those languages I think opens up the most avenues for other languages and other things to go learn. So that would be my advice to you if you're outside looking in right now. So number 4 in the top list of 5 things that I wish that I had learned before I became a software developer is I wish I had known people actually in the industry to help guide my understanding. Right now we have a really ubiquitous amount of knowledge out there and easy access to the people that are in the industry, right? You guys right now watching this have access to me. You guys can watch my videos. You guys can suggest topics you want me to talk about, which if you have a topic, just post it in the comment section below this video. And if it's a good one and I got time to cover it, I definitely will. So that kind of access and availability. When I was first learning about software development, again in the mid to late 90s, I didn't really have that kind of access. There wasn't. You could go do a CS program, but I was from this podunk town that was nowhere near any of like Silicon Valley or anything like that. So for me, I didn't really have that buy-in into the industry. I didn't have anybody to help guide me. I had my stepfather, who, again, regrettably gave me the Pascal book, but he wasn't really in the industry. He had been, tinkering around and dabbling with and doing some software development in, a while back, but he really wasn't in the industry and he couldn't really give me or inform my opinion while I was trying to learn about software. So, finding someone to help guide you, find some sort of mentor to help you in your career. And the flip side of that is also, I think we as senior developers and people who've been in the industry for a while, we kind of owe it to the people to help guide them in their journey as a software developer, which is part of the reason why I do these kind of videos on my YouTube channel, is to kind of help guide some people that are looking at the industry. So I wish I had, had more entry. I wish I had more people that could have helped me along in my career and point me in the right direction and say, you know what, throw out that Pascal book because that's not where the industry is anymore. That was, 10, 15 years ago, that book might have been relevant. But now you need to go learn, C++, or you need to go learn JavaScript or, something. Well, actually, JavaScript, again, wouldn't have been really that popular at that time. But something like Java. Java would have been a really good language, I think, for me to pick up. That kind of stuff that would have really helped propel my career had I had somebody in the industry kind of guiding me along. But now today, you guys have a lot of that. You guys have a lot of people that you can kind of mentor through, even if it's just pseudo mentoring, like through YouTube. Pick some of your favorite YouTube people, or reach out to or read some of the O'Reilly books that are out there. Find your developers or your kind of North Star. Who do you really admire in the industry? And read and watch and just try to absorb everything that they possibly can teach you, because it's all out there on the internet, right? You don't necessarily have to have direct contact with that person anymore. You can kind of absorb what their information is just through, those type of interactions online, reading and watching videos, etc. So, okay, the number 5 and last thing that I want to convey to you guys that I wish I had learned before I got into software development was how much money I could have been making this whole time if I had just stuck with it. I went for a long time of just dabbling in software development as a hobby and doing this MIRC thing and JavaScript thing on the side, and not really taking my software as a career. I didn't really perceive software as a career. And I had to do all these other things, and got involved in the golf industry and things like cellular support, things like that just kind of diverted my attention away from the software development. Gradually, I'm glad that I got back into it. It wasn't until probably around 30, 31 that I really thought, you know what, I can make something out of my career as a software developer. Like all this knowledge that I have about software development, even though I don't necessarily have the perfect set of languages learned just yet, I can figure that out. But now I'm starting to see maybe software is the way I should go. And I'm seeing a lot of money in it, so go do that. I wish that I had learned that. I wish I had known that way earlier in my lifetime. When I was a teenager or in my 20s, my life would be completely different right now if I had done that, right? I'd probably be, speculating here, but I'd probably be a multimillionaire, right? If you spend 20, 30 years in this industry, you can make a good amount of money, especially if you, spend your money wisely and save and that sort of thing. You can end up retiring very early. Unfortunately, the costs of living go up in the areas where, tech is most ubiquitous, right? In places like Seattle or San Francisco or New York, the cost of living in those areas is just skyrocketing. So maybe you can't quite make as much money or save as much money unless you get like a remote job and work somewhere, remotely, and you stay at home and you can live in any town that has decent internet. That's a pretty decent way to kind of save some money. But I wish that I had known early on and I hadn't spent and wasted so much time of my life focusing on these other career paths that I thought might work out that really didn't. And it wasn't until I decided to go to software development that I really found my niche. I really found like this is where I belong. This is who I am. This is what I should be doing. And that really helped me make a lot of money, right? I'm no by no means a multimillionaire at this point, but you know, I'm doing I have a much better life than than my parents had. I have a much better life for my wife and much better life. I was living dirt poor for so long, so long. I was just scraping by, living with roommates, and I mean, I lived in a house with four roommates. Outside, besides myself, I had four other roommates. So, and that was what I brought my girlfriend at the time into. Now she's my wife. Like, we were living in a dirt poor, barely scraping by, just barely making ends meet. And my life completely changed when I shifted my priority to actual software development, saying, like, this is where I want to go, and pushing myself into the avenues of doing it. That changed my life incredibly, and I know it can change your life a lot too. So, if you again are outside looking in and you're thinking about maybe looking at getting into software development and thinking about it like, should I or shouldn't I? Again, these are the five things that I think that they were things that I wish I knew, and maybe they're things that you wish you know. So, how much money you could possibly make, knowing that you can reach out to people that are in the industry. They're everywhere, right? They're on YouTube, they're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, and just find that guiding North Star. That find those, two, maybe three people that you really admire and really think that they're kind of visionaries in the industry, and follow them and read the stuff that they put out, read their blog posts, watch their YouTube videos, etc., and do whatever you can to learn from them. And if you're lucky enough to actually get a direct mentor, stick with it. Really try to absorb and listen and do whatever you can to absorb that. And then also picking a language is really, really key. I think you've got to get to a language that you think is going to help you boost your own career, and one that you think is very understandable. JavaScript is a really good one. Python's really good. Or C Sharp. Again, I can't say enough about C Sharp. I think it's honestly the best language out there. Personally, I feel that way. TypeScript is a version of JavaScript, with a lot of similarities between the object-oriented languages like Java and C Sharp. So there's a bunch of different languages you can really pick and start from, and whichever one you think is going to be the easiest for you to learn. And as you're trying to get started on it, see if it's something that really makes a lot of sense and it's easy for you to pick up on, and stick with it. Some of the other things, the other two things that I wish I had wish I'd known was how much time outside of work I'd be needing to think about code and software development in my career. All that stuff. I just wish I had known, and just know going into it that you are going to have to spend a lot of extra time doing those things. And it does become a fight to have that work-life balance, right? Finding time that if you have kids and a wife, or if you have a husband and kids, or whatever your situation is, trying to balance that life out and doing those extracurricular activities with your family, or just doing it for yourself, finding time to exercise just to keep yourself healthy, and finding time to cook instead of ordering out all the time. These are the kinds of things that you have to know going into it, that you have to pay very special attention to, because so much of your life outside of the 9 to 5 job is dedicated towards that kind of understanding and learning. And speaking of learning, how much continuous learning is involved. Just know going again into this that you are going to have a constant uphill battle for knowledge. It is constantly an uphill battle. You will have to basically just about every day try to find some time in your day to read or watch or listen to or go to some sort of meeting, or read a book, etc. You've got to continuously try to learn and practice and hone in on your skills. Learn how to do the CI/CD pipeline. That's a big one there. If you can get into DevOps, you've got a great career ahead of you. Those are the types of things that I think that if I had been told these things, if somebody had informed me of these things before I was thinking about getting into the industry, and maybe if I was a teenager, somebody had given me this advice, it might have changed my entire life. So hopefully this helps you in guiding your decision about whether or not you want to get into the software development industry. If you have any other suggestions or things that you would like to see on this channel, some suggestions of different top 5 or top 10 things, please feel free to drop those comments again in the comment section below this video. And as long as it's a good one and I've got time to cover it, I definitely will. So thank you everybody again for watching. I hope that this video was enjoyable and that you learned something. And until next time, thanks for watching. Bye-bye. I'd like to thank the following members for being a part of this community. Without your support, this channel would not be possible. Thank you.